imagination as it functions towards that end, right? I figured if we're going to pursue something or talk about something, we might need a working definition. So if you can help me share what you think of when you hear the word synchronicity, that would be amazing. We'll start there. So anybody at any point?
Together?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
In sync.
Say again?
Together.
Together. In sync.
Same way.
Same wave.
Simultaneously.
Flow.
Simultaneously.
Yeah, simultaneously. Coherence. Nice. Okay. Cool. This is amazing. So, in my life, tap dance has been the vehicle for the most deep learning that I've ever been able to experience in every area of my life. And so, what I would like to do is do that with you for the next hour. Cool. Okay, so I think of synchronicity as downstream from communal imagination. All right, it is a subsequent output of a group of people imagining and pursuing the same thing in light of their unique context and personality. That make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I go and I teach tap dance all over the world. And my goal when I enter into a room is to get everybody to dance together in the course of an hour. Right? Hopefully I'm challenging them a little bit, otherwise it's a really boring class if they're all tap dancers. Right? If they're not all tap dancers, it's a very unique experience because they are learning language, they are learning vocabulary, they are learning how to encounter their body, right? All at the same time, and try to execute something together, right? So, and we'll get moving in a second. I just want to kind of lay groundwork. Because the thinking is important, right? So, I was thinking about 3 different ways that we know what we're trying to pursue. One way is through story. One way is through description. And one way is through modeling. Right? So one way is the next step of this story is likely this. Another way is envisioning a description of a person, place, or thing that resonates with us as true. And so we take that into our thinking and that fuels our pursuit. And another way is we see the thing that we want to do and we just pursue that. We follow someone. Right? Okay, so in tap dance land, I am going to be the model, right? We're going to encounter some descriptions that are true in tap dance land, and that's going to help you pursue this. And the story happens to be one of oral tradition, which means you need to know something about the teachers that I had for you to be able to enter into the land that I see, right? My main teacher was Gregory Hines. Anybody recognize that name?
Did you say Gregory Hines?
Cool. Say it.
Gregory Hines, did you say?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So he would do stuff like this. And so that gives you a sense of where I might be coming from. All right? Not a sense of where we're going today. And one of the things in tap dance land is, we'll probably learn almost everything you need to know to build that, but not that. Okay? Because it's all Legos, just building blocks. All right, so we're going to dive in. Any thoughts or questions before we get moving on anything that I've said so far?
Can you say the synchronicity sentence again?
It's downstream of communal imagination. Okay? So it can't, I don't see synchronicity as something that can be imposed. It's something that, it's like C.S. Lewis has this wonderful quote about friendship, Where's that moment where one person turns to another and says, "Oh, you too?" It's like, I don't know how to make that happen. But I do know how to generate communal imagination. And the output of that is somebody going to somebody else and saying, "Oh, together, cool." Yeah? Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay, cool. So we're going to start walking. Flat-footed, knees bent. Okay? Tap dancers play the floor. We don't play our feet. The percussion instrument, the thing that you play is what you hit. Drummers don't play sticks, they play drums. Right? So we play the floor. Thankfully, if you just kind of the floor, sweet. How does the floor feel?
Good.
Solid? Pretty solid, reliable. Trusting language. Does it feel hard or soft?
Hard.
Hard. Does it feel smooth or rough?
Smooth.
Smooth. Okay. So these are relational things that tap dancers become very tuned to in terms of the context that we're in. All right. So we're going to start with whatever leg you like to start with, but we're going to hit the floor flat and alternate feet. And just start walking. That are all based on making one note only. Yeah, so we start nice and easy. That movement, flat foot, is called the stomp. We say stomp.
Stomp.
Easy. Next one, just the front of your foot, we call a step. We say step.
Step.
Okay, so we're going to run some steps. Things right off the bat. Right? You're learning how far away your floor is depending on how far up you lift your leg. Right? Because you're trying to time when your foot hits the floor. And so this is a learned proprioceptive moment. Yeah? Anybody ever thought of it that way? Yeah, neither did I. It's like, and many of my teachers didn't either. They kind of said, "Do this," and you would try, and then you're like, "Cool." The idea of the skill set that comes behind all of that is something that you learn later if you're trying to teach. Does that make sense? Okay. So we've got two movements. What was the first one?
Stomp.
Amazing. What was the second one?
Step.
Cool. Number 3 is going to be a heel drop. This one, we're not going to lift the leg off the ground. We're just going to lift our heel. Yeah? We'll drop. We're going to do a few of them. Body health safety issue. Keep your knees soft. Right? Because if you lock up, that's not cool for your knee. And if you want to move that leg again, you're going to have to bend anyway. So we just stay. Like ready position, always. All right, cool. Bunch of heel drops. 1, 2, 3, just say that. We're going to jump to the next move right away. I'm not going to stop you. Next move is called a toe drop. Here we go.
That was hard to do. Your knees bent.
Cool. Feedback. So we've got 4 things. What was the first one?
Stop.
What was the second one?
Step.
What was the third one?
Heel drop.
What was the 4th one?
Toe tap.
Yeah. Tell me about it. What did it feel like?
Right here is really tired from doing that.
Something new. Your body's like, I'm sorry. What are we doing? You're asking me, how long are we doing? Yeah? What else? Anything?
The rest of your body wants to move at the same time.
Yeah, how?
In rhythm with it to keep balance. and
Something.
Something's happening. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah.
I'm like overthinking it because of the setting.
Are you worried?
I'm aware of like everyone else's toes dropping and I'm like, synchronicity, am I supposed to be doing something? What about what we're learning right now?
Yeah, so there's a social context to it, right? Many times in a circle like this for a dance tradition that is traditional, it would be intergenerational, right? So you will have the oldest right next to like the kid. Tap dancing, not so much, because it gets really noisy and really messy very quickly. If you have someone who's there who doesn't know the technical vocabulary. But I've seen it happen, and they let the kid go. Whatever, we're doing this, but you're gonna hang out. And in a year, the kid knows what's happening without being like specifically taught. So it's immersion learning, yeah? And immersion learning is akin to social pressure.
And to me, the less you think about it, the more in synchronicity you get with other people. You sort of hear the noise at the same time, and it just becomes kind of instinctual.
Yeah. So there's a question around direction of listening. Yeah. Are we listening to ourselves and our body and what's coming up from our feet? Or are our ears poised in a different direction that's inclusive of ourselves and includes the group? And both of those things are possible, right? If you open your ears to the group, you will hear yourself. You can't pay attention to yourself, but you will hear yourself. If you open your ears only to yourself, you close off from the group. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. So, yeah.
Also, I feel like I'm feeling the vibration in my entire body and heart. You know, it's like almost like my heart is trying to get in sync, but I'm not there yet.
So there is there's literature and research around communal synchronization of heartbeats in theater. Right? Whole audience sees the same show. Their heart rates and heartbeats synchronize across the entire audience. Yeah. Okay, and they're sitting watching. So what happens to people who are doing the same thing together or involved in the same story together? Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna mess with some things. So we have four moves right now. We're gonna start to build our story. We're gonna do 8 stomps, 8 steps, 8 heel drops, and 8 toe drops. Yeah. Dancers and musicians are less smart than everybody else because you can only count to 4 or 8. 11 if it's... All right, so 8, 8, 8, 8. Yeah? Start with whatever foot you like. We go together. Hey, we said. Sweet. So, yeah.
Brain's working hard.
We do it a couple times. We do it a couple times because nowhere in the rest of my life do I do anything that symbolizes tap dancing. So it takes my body a couple moments to figure out what I'm even asking of it. So I give it a couple shots. Yeah? Do it again. 1, 2, 3. We say. Yeah. Tell me about it. About what's upstream from the left.
Synchronicity.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Yeah, sweet. Thoughts? Questions?
How do you transition from this to this real fast?
Yeah. Good question. Okay, so technical question, right?
Yeah.
All right. Where do you think? And I'll go kind of in the middle. Put me in a place. Tell me where you think I should hold my body for access, given what you know about tap dance land. I'll start here. What should I do?
Bend your knees.
Hey, okay. What else?
Arms out.
Arms out, okay. Say again? Loose. How loose? Because
Relaxed.
everybody says relax. I say, if you relax all your muscles, you just lie down on the floor. That's where it goes. Okay, so I'm here. I got bent knees. I have a sense of relaxation. I will buy that. Yeah. So I'm not like, right? That's not the ethic. Okay, so there's something about this. What else? Other ideas? A couple other like specific things that I might
Engage the core.
engage the core. Okay, so I support my body from somewhere in the center. What else? That makes my back
Depending on
worse.
what move is next, decide where your center of gravity should be. Like, do you need to lean a little forward, a little backward?
Yeah.
Do the move, like,
Good call. So I have things that I can do up here in terms of positioning that will give me access to things down there. All right? This is my way of understanding management. Right? Positioning up here gives me access down there. Okay, so general positioning for me, I've found, is to the front. And I like to think about it as a forward intent. Not leaning, just the same way that I wouldn't want to lean back. I'm just trying to go that way. Does that make sense? And then if the move allows me, I can. Or I might not. But I'm still trying. That's my disposition. Does that make sense? Okay. So in that way, if I'm here, nothing need change. Yeah? And so I.
So what if you start with back? Still, you need to move first forward.
Yeah. It's still a forward intent. For some reason, and I've only gotten one note on this in my entire life. It was from a military guy who told me why this might happen. But tap dance steps, doing tap dancing, has a way of kicking you off that way. So if I do something like without a forward intent, my body just wants to go that way. And the military cat said it's on account of like a fear mechanism that wants away from the action. Super interesting, right? So there are some things like deep in this area of our bodies that make us do things that we don't know why because we don't live in the context that needed to happen anymore. Right? So, forward intent. Go towards the thing that's active. As opposed to. Yeah. The other thing is, if you were going to fall, which as a dancer we do often, even when not dancing, seems to be, you always want to see where you're falling. So this idea is way like a no-no. That, no problem. Like way better. Okay, I get to see what's happening, and at least my body is not blind. Right? I use my eyes, I can see. It has more information. There's more chance for action and response than just protective measures, because we don't know what's happening. that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we do 8 again. Did that answer your question?
I'm gonna try.
Cool. So one of the things that I think about a lot in tap dance land is where can I be? Where can I situate myself to have access, to be open for whatever it is that I need? Does that draw parallels? Lines? Yeah? Okay. It's like the class of analogies. Okay, here we go. Whichever foot you want. 1, 2, 3, reset. Cool. Now we're gonna do it twice more. 1, 2, 3, reset. Sweet. One more. 1, 2, 3, reset. Cool. Okay. On purpose. Yeah. Amazing. Okay, so there's 2 things. One is physical common context, and the other one that we're going to dive into communal imagination specifically, because we're there. How many of us just naturally started with our right foot as we were doing this? How many of us with our left? Cool. I'm going to run you through a quick poll to let you know like where else that exists. All right. So if I find you standing on the corner somewhere, how many of us would I find standing over their left leg? Like,
So put your weight on your left leg?
yeah, with your weight on your left leg.
While I'm standing.
Well, yeah. You can like not think about it and see where your body goes, and you're like, oh yeah, okay. And how many of us over our right? Yeah. And for how many of us, it's like, I'm not sure. Just kind of doing that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not a cop-out vote. It's like legit. How many of us, when we started to walk, would use our right leg as a lead? Like, yeah. How many of us, if we approached a set of stairs, would use our right leg to step up? How many of us would use the same leg to step down? Or would we use the left leg to step down?
So this is an interesting question for me.
Yeah.
I had knee surgery last year, so it's changed all this.
Yes! Yeah, huge, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the last one, which is very kind of awareness sharing, is if you approach a moving platform, like an escalator or something in an airport, which leg would you prefer, the right one or the left one? Yeah. So, and we've seen someone approach an escalator, they pause, they pick the leg, and then they go. It's like high preference, right? So, those are things that are built into your body that when you come to do something different, you will encounter. Right? If I asked everyone, okay, we're going to start with our left leg now. We're gonna start with our left leg now. Let's see what happens. 1, 2, 3, reset. Cool. How'd it feel?
I ended up on the other leg.
Yeah. Sweet.
It's
Anybody
for the
for anybody
transition.
to feel like different?
Took a little more effort.
No? A little?
More effort.
More effort.
Think
yeah.
about it.
There you go. Yeah.
It felt easier for me.
Super interesting. Yeah, that's awesome. So there's no like rule of thumb around how the relationship functions or what shows up. We just know that that's a thing. So maybe if we go to this side, we have to think about it a little bit more. At least just to start. Right? Okay. Second thing is communal imagination. So 3 times ago, I set you off at 3 different tempos. So I'm going to ask you this question. I ask this question to every tap dance class that I teach. Where does time exist?
In your feet.
In our imaginations.
Yeah. It actually doesn't exist anywhere except in the agreement that we have. A pianist friend of mine was the first person to tell me about that. In a band, it doesn't exist anywhere except the agreement amongst the musicians. Right? In an orchestra, where does time exist? The conductor. Right? And everybody else says, I will go where you go. Yeah? But in a communal setting where the responsibility hierarchy is flat, it's only in terms of agreement. Now in this setting, how do you know how fast time is going to be organized for us? Yeah, I count you in. I go, and then everybody goes, cool, we're going to agree, and then you go. Yeah? What happens if somebody decides that they're not going to agree?
May not notice.
May not notice, yeah. The group might swallow them up. You have enough people going at the same time, then the one person is like, no, I'm not going to go. Right? They just kind of get swallowed up by the group. What happens if that person is outspoken?
Sounds out of tune with the rest.
Say again?
Sounds kind of out of tune.
Yeah, there's dissonance. Yeah. What could the responses of the group be?
To follow that dissonance.
Say again?
It might actually ruin the group dynamic.
Yeah. So how?
Well, both effectively in terms of emotional connection, but also in terms of physically potentially mirroring those actions.
Yeah. So the group could follow, right? Or they could get mad. Right? In tap dance land, getting mad means getting louder. Right? So, and I've seen this happen where you put two groups in opposition of each other, they're facing each other, and say, you guys are going to clap, so you're going to hold time, you're going to represent time. You guys are going to dance. If the dancers start going faster or slower, the clappers get louder. Because they feel, you follow us, we are representative of time, right? And so that becomes an interesting kind of expose of group dynamics. Right? And the fact that communal imagination is something that needs to be continually checked in on. So in tap dance land, as we do this, how do we check in on our communal agreement? Listen. For what? The sound. In what context?
The rhythm of the song?
The rhythm. So rhythm, say more about that.
Like what tempo does it have? Like what's different, the silences, and what's the durations in between so that I can repeat that?
Okay, so we're trying to listen for whether or not the dancing that we're hearing lines up with the imagination that we have of time. It's literally what you're doing. It's a lot of work.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
So what about harmony?
Harmony is vertical.
Okay.
So rhythm is horizontal, goes
Okay,
over
got
time. Harmony is this way.
But it can also be like within the,
It will happen in time, right? You're going to have changes of chords.
right, but it doesn't necessarily all go at the same time because the notes are often written in different ways. So
But it's all in the context of the same organization of time.
yes,
Yeah.
that's correct. Yes.
And so that's what we're imagining. We're not imagining when, we're imagining how and when,
Okay.
right? It's like, how is the construct? We're in a building.
Yeah.
When would we be on the stage? So organization of time is the building.
Got it.
That's what we have to agree upon.
Got it.
Tempo is part of that, right? The when is the more specific agreement that says we're going to do 8 stomps and 8 steps and 8 heels and 8 toe drops, and we're going to do that together. The step beyond that is communal improvisation.
Right. Okay.
Where we
But
say,
it still happens in the same.
it's the same context of time.
Yeah. Got it.
Right? So the organization is agreed upon, which is why I can dance and do something completely different than another dancer, but we will line up and we will be a third person will be able to hear us and know that we are sharing the same context.
Like jazz?
Yeah, exactly like jazz. Jazz over time has evolved in numerous different directions. If you listen to earlier jazz from New Orleans, you will hear plenty of communal improvisation. The context is the song. The song defines the harmonic framework as well as the rhythmic framework, right? Tempo, pace, feel. There's a difference, and this kind of goes to the larger definition of culture, but there's a difference in dancing in a groove like. If you let your body just move right now, and this is what you're relating to, how would you do it? Yeah, it's kind of like a natural, seemingly, possibly a natural thing. Those are hard to say nowadays, but that would be different than if the groove was. Right? Does that make sense? So all those things get organized in a song. So if multiple people are playing in that context, they can play whatever they want, so long as they're relating to the context. They have agreed that a limitation on their choices is this context. Right? Lots of people in tap dancing are like, we can do whatever we want. I'm like, actually, no. Can't do whatever you want. Because that's a denial of context. Right? It eliminates the possibility for relationship. Without shared context, there's no third party to mediate. Right? Without the agreement of time, or the organization of time, there's no way we could dance together. Right? Impossible. Time mediates our ability to say, oh, we can actually sync up. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. So we're gonna get a little bit more complex, and I don't have a watch on, so.
Speaking of time.
It's fine. We're going to the quarter after. All right. Sweet.
Check the schedule. Yes, quarter.
Okay, great. Thoughts, questions on anything before we double down? Okay, sweet. Okay, so you need to learn 2 more things before we do this next thing. So what was the first move we did?
Stop.
Yeah, what was the second?
Step.
Cool. What was the third?
Yoga.
Yeah, what was the fourth? All right, dig. Yeah. Again, knees stay soft. All right, and it's literally the back edge of your heel. Do that a couple times. Then you can go to the other side. Don't leave the left leg hanging. Nice. All right, and the other one, so that's called dig. Can we say dig?
Dig.
Like a shovel. And the last one is a brush. So you're going to pick up one favored leg, and you're going to hit the front of your foot, brushing forward. So you do that a couple times. Both of them go back and forth. So brushes go forward and or back. Okay, so you kind of already just learned what's called a shuffle. Can we say shuffle?
Shuffle.
All right. Shuffle is pretty ubiquitous in percussive dances. You'll see them in flat footing and clogging. Take one leg, start up in the back, Take a brush forward, brush back. That's your shove. So you do it twice. One, that'd be twice. Right? The step that normally would come after is separate. So you got shove, pull, step. Yeah? Cool. So let's take our favorite leg. We're gonna go shove, pull, right? Just that much. 1, 2, 3, reset. Again. 1, 2, 3, reset. Cool. Couple more times. Reset. Twice more. Here we go. And last one, do the beat. Awesome. Now we're going to bounce back and forth. So right leg to left leg to right leg to left leg. Everybody ready?
Turn around before you fall out.
I see what you're doing.
Here we go. 1, 2, 3, reset. One more. Sweet. Cool, how'd that go? Good fun. Amazing. Okay, so we're gonna, every time we learn a thing, the next stage is to mess with the thing that we just learned. Right? So because there's an adaptive cycle, right? There's a cycle of habituation. So you learn it, your body's like, ah, and then it's like, oh, okay. And then it's like, cool, we can just do this for all day, right? And depending on how you like to deal with your body, you can wait until we could do this all day to go, we're not going to do that all day. Or you could start earlier and be like, oh, it looks like you're getting a little comfortable. We're going to change the group, right? And that has everything to do with how you want to learn or how you want others to learn. Right? So if you're in a group, if you're in a teaching situation, and you wait until the habituation happens completely, that's very kind of you. Right? If you don't wait, you are challenging your people. Right? Because they've just gotten that thing where they're like, oh, and you might have somebody go, it worked! And you're like, cool, next. Right? So they don't get the actual sit in and comfort of the learning experience. They just get the achievement orientation, and then it's taken from them. Right? Which sounds really harsh. But that's literally what you do if you're trying to train like a person to do something that they don't know or don't want to do. And nobody's body really wants to do the thing that they're learning. It wants to do the thing that it already knows. Right? So how the language that we have with our own body, and then the empathy we have for others, right? That we're trying to guide into something that they don't know is really important. Right? The ability to build a vision towards the thing that they don't know yet helps the learning process. Because you can work on somebody's want or desire before you work on their actual engagement, and then they buy in. When I was 9 years old, I saw the movie Tap with Sammy Davis Jr., Gregory Hines, and Savion Glover. Yes, ma'am. I left the theater and told my parents I want to become a tap dancer. My parents were crazy enough that they were like, okay, cool, how do we do that? Right? It helped that I was already in dance school, so they had some sort of framework. But within a year, thanks to my folks and a number of circumstances that were beyond anybody's control, I met Gregory Hines and Savion Glover. Wow. Right? Yeah. I had a nervous breakdown. Because I'd given myself 30 years to meet Gregory Hines. Like, I had a plan. That plan was fast-tracked. It's like, no. You're going to run 29 years ahead of schedule. You're going to do this. My brain flipped. Anyway, that movie provided me with a vision that allowed my heart to shift such that when I met Gregory and Savion in a workshop context, I was a beginner in an intermediate advanced context. Literally standing 2 feet from Savion, there were 30 other people behind me. He did something, they all did the same thing, and I stood there still. Because I had no technical proficiency. But I wanted that. So I stayed, and I didn't care what was happening around me. I cared that he asked me what time it was. Does that make sense? Okay, so if you work on the will, and the will shifts because of a vision, you have buy-in. And the challenge of the learning diminishes. Because we're willing to go through the suffering that is the death of what we knew and the birth of what's to come because of the vision that we have. Does that make sense? If that happens, if the vision is agreed upon in multiple people, that's power. Right? Because then you're willing to deal with the suffering of multiple wills arguing with one another for the sake of how to achieve the vision. Right? On account of the power of the vision agreed upon by everybody. Yeah? And scale is not an issue here. It can happen in the smallest thing or the largest thing. The suffering increases the larger it gets. Because the learning's harder, right? There are more things that have to be set aside in order for more people to come into a thing that they're all agreeing upon, not knowing how it's going to happen. Because we all have ideas about how it's going to happen. That make sense? Okay, cool. Shuffle step. Cool. So, like I said, we're going to mess with you. So here we go. This is the pattern that we want. Shuffle, step, shuffle, step, shuffle, step, You get it. Okay, cool. Do it again. One foot, the other foot, back to the first one. Do it a couple times. Here we go. 2, 3, 4. So, some things that might help. How many of us remember Kermit the Frog? Okay. Go with me. All right. Anybody remember on the Muppet Show when he used to introduce a guest and he'd be like, "Ladies and gentlemen, so and so," and he'd be like, "Ah!" Yeah? Remember that? Super big, right? He wasn't just like, "Ladies and gentlemen, ta-da." So the larger and more exaggerated you can envision what your body is doing and attempt to go in that direction, the more your body's going to learn, right? And the more committed you're going to be for that thing. So this, in my mind's eye, is like that leg, then that leg, then that leg, and then that leg. Right? Now, 2 things happen with that idea. One is your commitment increases. That means if you go in the wrong direction, you will be really wrong. Yeah? And in a learning environment, that's really good. Art Blakey, jazz musician, ran an amazing band called the Jazz Messengers. He used to tell his bandmates, and his band was a teaching band, so his bandmates went on to lead bands. That was his model. He used to tell his bandmates, mess up loudly. Play that solo, play the note that you think you want. If it's the wrong note, I want to hear it. Yeah? That way, you know. Right? The timidity that comes with the I'm not really sure, maybe kind of in this direction, doesn't allow for learning. It allows for the possibility of getting by on execution. Because you're quiet. Right? And that's why the single person who's dissonant in the group could get swallowed up. Because they're quiet. If that person is outspoken, high dissonance. Higher, at least. Right? Now, how many of us here have perfectionist tendencies? Yeah. Right? We're talking about timidity, everybody's like, oh. Like, commit. Yeah. There it is. Cool. So, this is a safe space, right? For the execution of things that we don't know about. Yeah, that we're trying, that we're not sure if they're going to work out. But the only way we know if they're going to work out is if we go full bore, right? And in tap dance land, nobody gets hurt, right? Outside of tap dance land, if we make a mistake, some people might get hurt. Inside tap dance land, it's just our confidence, and that's okay. Like, we're here for each other in that case, yeah? Okay, cool. Yeah, so that's the deal. Big, mess up loudly. See what happens. 1, 2, 3, we did it. Sweet. Cool. Twice more. 1, 2, 2, 3, we did it. One more, and then I'll share more tricks. 1, 2, 2, 3, 4. Awesome. All right.
I want to see the third leg.
Yes. That's awesome. All right. So our bodies might habituate faster than we know. Right? You go forward, you go forward. This leg does not want to go down. It wants to do something else. Probably another shuffle. Because we just did 3 of them. And we started this whole exercise by doing 4 of them. Right? So we're
messing with us.
Yeah, totally. And I will share with you the audience perspective of this set, which is folks in the audience will track your feet as a tap dancer quite often. So they'll go, okay, cool, oh, that's right, oh, okay, right? And so in the position of the dancer, we're like a storyteller, where we have to know the story more than the person listening. In your body, well, management-wise, your mind has to know the story better than your body does, until your body can do it without any management. Right? So you, what is that? What's it, over, you micromanage. And do it kindly, right? But you micromanage until you don't have to anymore. And the check on not having to is to let go before you think you're ready. Yeah? So let's try this one. This is the other trick. If the shuffle goes out, the step goes down. So movement-wise, you can, like we've got this right to left thing happening. You can also say out, 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 down, out. Yeah? Yeah, and it becomes a shorthand. That every time you say out, your body's like, cool, shuffle. Because it already knows that if I pick up my foot like this and we're going out that way, 8 out of 10 times, that's probably what we're doing. Yeah? 10 out of 10 in this context. You don't have to worry about it. Cool? Again, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, we say it. Cool. How many sounds in the shuffle step? 3 sounds. How many sounds in the step? 1. That is your ratio for time and attention in those 2 different things. Right? And that gets habituated too. Got all that time to figure out if that shuffle is working, and if I'm doing the right thing, and if I'm hearing the right thing. I get that time again when I go over here. And I get that time again when I go over here. And I want that time again when I come over here. Right? But I don't have it. So a step kind of becomes like a roller coaster ride that you know really, 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 really well. How many of us have ever ridden a roller coaster? How many of us have seen people ride roller coasters? Okay. So imagine yourself on a roller coaster or in a race car, both would work, where you lean into the turn and prepare yourself for going down. Because the turn isn't surprising, it's just the thing that comes next. Yeah? And timing between turn 1 and turn 2 is something that you know. It's something that you have adapted to. That make sense? Such that this is nice and comfortable. Yeah. And this is going to be fast. Yeah? And your body isn't aching for the thing that it wants that it doesn't have. That make sense? Okay. 1, 2, 2, 3, we say. Twice more. And trust that every time your foot goes down to the step in this combination, it will take weight. So shuffle down, shuffle down, shuffle down, down. Yeah? All right. 1, 2, 3, we say it. Yes, 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 Twice more. 1, 2, 2, 3, yeah. Last one. 1, 2, 3, yeah.
Like 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay, great. So, what you know is the first step in a dance called the Shim Sham. Shim Sham goes back roughly 100 years to the 1920s. The gentleman who is credited with putting all the steps in order for this piece is a guy named Leonard Reed. He had a dance partner named Willie Bryant. They built this piece. They originally named it Goofus. I don't know. No idea. It turned into what is known as the Shim Sham. Shim Sham is like the international anthem of tap dancers. So if you go to a tap dance show, tap dance concert, quite often all the cast will come out at the end and they will do this piece. It's very short. I will do it for you now. so you can see it. And we'll end there, and then questions and thoughts and stuff like that. Okay, so it's normally done much faster than this. Thoughts, questions, comments on any of the stuff that we've talked
It
about?
was fun.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for being willing to play.
I have to admit, I'm sorry, I just
No,
jumped
no,
in.
no, no.
I mean, there are so many spiritual tones to what you're doing, what you were saying. I felt like you were saying amen. However you say that.
Yeah.
So many times.
So be it. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really need to
My
know.
pleasure.
No, not at all. I was just curious how fast it's typically done. What feels best for you when you do that?
Somewhere around. Any faster would feel like pushing.
So that's a real good spot.
Yeah.
Hey.
Cool. We gotta skedaddle.
Shall we? Okay.
Sweet.
Thank
Yeah.
Thank you so much.